one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot recently in the shower is my mental disposition, let's just say.
Okay.
And I'm sure you are aware, most people that know me very well know that I've battled depression almost my entire adult life. I am on medication for depression. I used to be the happiest person I knew, and then depression hit, and it's been a battle. And some days it's a battle to stay alive, as we all know. So I have in the past been standing on a bridge ready to jump, and
Metaphorically speaking, or literally?
Literally. And didn't jump that particular day because I couldn't get my friend to drive to my house and pick up Delilah. So when I joke around a lot and tell people that Delilah saved my life, it was Delilah and my friend Heidi, actually, because I'm not willing to leave Delilah. I didn't have Eloise at the time, but I was not willing to leave Delilah without a adult supervision. And my friend had enough foresight to tell me no, she would not pick up Delilah. So yeah, I've battled depression and I've battled suicide on numerous occasions in my life. So now that I've kind of leveled out in life, and I mean, we're in the middle of a pandemic, and that definitely messes with your mental well-being.
Sure.
And I can spend time in the shower and just think, God, is it really worth all this effort and battling daily crazies in order to come out on the other end and still maybe be in the same situation, right? I think this a lot. And then I say, yes, it is. So I'm like, for the first time in my life, I fully feel like if I want to stay alive, like, and that doesn't happen very often in my life. So when I say to people, so the people that know that about me, if I say, oh my God, I'm having a bad day, they literally freak out on me. They're like, oh my God, what? I'm like, no, I'm just having a bad day. It doesn't mean I'm going to jump off a bridge. And it's interesting because I don't want to tell people now that I'm having a bad day. So now I'm back to where I was prior to this whole arc of survival, where I'm not telling people how I feel. And that's how this whole depression, jumping off a bridge thing happened, because I couldn't say to someone, I'm really sad today and I'm having a struggle. And I just want you to say, you know, okay. Yeah, I don't need you to call the police and have them come to. So now we've done this arc, and now I'm right back where I started, where, like, if I were to say to my sister, yeah, I'm really bummed out today, she immediately goes into panic mode. And I don't blame her. I'm not mad at her for that. I think that's really nice and lovely and awesome. But now I can't tell her I'm having a bad day, because it freaks her out. And I don't know, other than this extended long conversation where I've just wasted, I don't know, 10 minutes of your time.
Not wasted, not one iota of my time.
That, how do you explain to people, I'm not the same person I was 10 years ago, or that I was over these last 10 years. And just because I'm having a bad day, and we have them because we're in a crazy pandemic.
Yes.
And we had the world's worst leader in position. I mean, like, how do you not get depressed when
right? How do you? And that's the thing. So two things come to mind. Actually, multiple, but I'm only going to mention two.
No, I want you to mention multiple.
And one is a question is, have you just said this to them and said, it's okay that I can have a bad day? Like, you don't have to worry. I'm not, and say exactly what you just said to me to them.
Yeah, no, I haven't. And I think that it's because I've lied to them before about how I felt. I've lied to them constantly, because that's what you do when you're feeling suicidal. It's not like, oh yeah, you know what, it's sucky and I'm going to kill myself. You can't keep saying that over and over.
No, and the reality is it's we've all seen the memes or whatever everywhere, with Robin Williams or some of these people who were as happy as could be on the outside and ended up killing themselves. So there's that saying of like, check in on your happy friends. And I can honestly say too, I think that part of, I don't want to diminish what you're saying because it's really, really important. And I don't want this statement to feel diminishing, I guess is my point, is to go back to that societal thing. I think we have a huge problem in this country of happiness and positivity. If you're not positive, you're not a good person. If you're not happy, something's wrong. And I think it's chronic, where it's almost not okay to say you're having a bad day. And that's a huge problem. And I think it really goes back to the fact that mental health has not been a priority in this country. It's really been for the elite and people who have money because it's expensive. A lot of the time insurance doesn't cover it. Or if it does, and you go to someone who's in network, they could give a shit about you a lot. I mean, and you can feel it, that you can feel they're kind of just pushing through to their next client. And it takes a lot to find someone. And I don't think you're alone. I think that a lot of people, I've gone through it. I mean, especially the last 2 years have been awful in some ways. And I don't know if you felt this way, but I've never felt so bipolar. And I know I'm not bipolar. I've asked my therapist multiple times just to make sure.
Can we check in again? Can we double check? Yeah.
And I do think a part of it is the time we are living through a pandemic, but I also think because it's like one day I feel great. It's like I'm doing yoga every day. I'm eating healthy, work's going well. Everything feels good. And then the next day it's like, we're never getting fucking out of this. And when is it going to end? And it's like, I was reading somewhere recently where they were talking about how the pandemic is so much different than, say, a hurricane coming or a tornado or these fires, because it's coming and then it's going to end.
Right.
With this, there has not been an end date in sight. But I do think it's interesting to go back to what you were saying. I think what I'm hearing, at least, is it's really difficult for you to be honest because you lied so much to them.
That is what that is one of them.
So the trust has been eroded. They're not clearly hearing you, or you're concerned or assuming they're not going to hear you when you say, I'm just having a bad day. And it doesn't mean I'm going to a bridge. It doesn't mean that the worst case scenario is happening. It's that I'm human. And right now, but I have the tools to be able to manage it. And like, I recognize now that it is a bad day. It's not a bad life.
Right. That's true. Hey, that's a great term, actually. You're right.
And there's a difference. I feel like even when I've been in those scenarios of, God, do I go on and like, I've literally plotted out, like, how am I going to do, because I can't, it was because I couldn't see anything good anymore. I never thought anything good was going to happen in the future. It was all bad. And that's where the depression comes in. And that's where this hopelessness comes in. And so I think that perspective change it sounds like you've had, is that I'm really actually enjoying my life. I'm just, today some bullshit happened, but I know tomorrow's a new day.
I know I'm going to lay down and this feeling will pass. That's how I often feel. Yeah.
Or you can take one of your power naps. I was always envious of you that you could take like a 10-minute power nap and
10-minute done, ready to go. It's interesting also is that I can have 10 bad days in a row at this point in my life. And I still know I'm going to come out of it at this point.
Yeah.
I didn't know that, 5 years ago.
Yeah.
I was like, I can't live through 10 bad days in a row. I just can't. And I'm like, oh yeah, guess what? I can. But I mean, oh, I know what I was going to tell you. That part takes patience on both ends, right? Like, so from my friends and family, and then from my end, I have some friends that did an intervention, which here's my
I
thing about,
remember that.
yeah.
Yes. I remember.
And I don't remember if I told you this, but I have decided only qualified people should do interventions. Because looking back on it now, I mean, it was lovely that they cared enough to do an intervention, but it really did disrupt a lot of my life. And the other funny thing was they pointed out all these things that were wrong and gave me ideas on how to fix it, and then walked away. And I'm like, you already know I'm not in a place where I can fix it. Why not maybe help me fix it? Or if you're going to unload all of this on me, then maybe you should, if you're going to take on that responsibility, then you're going to take on all the responsibility at that
Well,
point.
that's why they have, what is this show? There's that show. I couldn't watch it because it was just, I watched like 4 or 5 episodes and I was like, oh, this is so depressing. Intervention, I think it was called. But they have intervention specialists just for that reason.
Yeah.
Because it is a skill. And again, to your point, I mean, there's a gratefulness of having people
That
around
cared.
you that love you and care.
Yep.
But also that's the complexity of relationships. And
Yeah.
also, and that's where I think it's interesting that we were talking about the romantic versus friendships, and that just like in a romantic relationship, if trust is broken, it can also be broken in a friendship.
Yeah.
And I think that it would be, I know you did not ask my advice. I am going to give it regardless, but I think that it's important that you acknowledge that in the past you have lied and
Yeah.
say that to them. I know I've lied about this in the past, so I get that you may be hesitant to hear what I'm saying, but you've got to trust me and know that I'm not the same person. I've grown and I have tools, and it really give them an opportunity, because I also think it's really important. And I think it's beautiful that you recognize that you're at step 1 of that same pattern again. So you've got to break the pattern.
Yeah. Nope, I get it. And actually, one of the things that you had said that I wanted to reiterate was, so when I got here to Las Vegas, I was in a emotionally and mentally, whatever, bad place. I was in a bad place. So I did go to a doctor. I did get a prescription. And then I did say to her, I'm going to need more than just this prescription. So she, insurance, she has to write me a referral to a therapist in order for my insurance to pay for it. And so she did. She wrote me a referral to a therapist, but then she also wrote me a referral to a psychiatrist, which, can I tell you, I was ecstatic about, because I'd never tried a psychiatrist before. And I was like, I'm in real trouble. I'm willing to admit at this point, I am in real trouble. So yes, I will see your psychiatrist. Made the appointment, waited in a crazy waiting room full of crazy people like me. Not crazy, but and went back. And then I was ready to talk to this therapist, and all he wanted to do was find out what medication I was on.
Yes. So psychiatrists are known for that. They are the ones who can prescribe.
Yeah, that's it.
Medication, and that's it. That's why a therapist is so important. They cannot prescribe. They can recommend. They cannot prescribe, but they're the ones who are actually going to talk to you and really try to figure out what's going on.
He had no interest.
No.
In how I was doing or how I was feeling or we didn't have a conversation about me.
A psychiatrist is more about your brain, and a therapist is about your heart, or should be about your heart and your spirit and your history and how to work on things and rebuild.
But the funny thing was, my doctor had already prescribed me the medication.
But
I
if you
already
wanted to
had,
go down towing, yeah, but
I had
that
a
was more of a
prescription.
technicality, and he or she probably knew that.
I'm like, I got a prescription. So he wrote me another one. So now I had
Right.
two, which is why I have a stockpile of antidepressant medication, but I'm having a hard time getting my high blood pressure medication because nobody wants to prescribe that for you. I was just like, oh gosh. But yeah, it's been very, very interesting. And I worry, sometimes I have to worry more about how I'm going to sound to other people, because what am I going to do when they freak out on me, and then I got to deal with that. And I'm like, okay, just deep breath. You're in it overall. I've got a good base. And then crazy things happen on occasion on that base. But
Sure.
I do like the idea of, like, yes, I absolutely have lied. Absolutely. I felt I had to, because that's
Right.
what society has recommended for us to do.
Yeah.
For sure. Never a dull moment. This whole ride has been, and it is interesting to me how often not how often, because it's not very often, on rare occasions, I just automatically revert back to that old thought process. Well, that's it. If it's going to be like this, I'm out. I'm done. And then I'm like, what are you talking about? What do you mean? You got to do the podcast with freedom, and I still have Delilah, so I'm not going in. And now I got Eloise. I got both of them, so I'm not going anywhere.
No.
And what a great feeling. Who knew that I don't really want to go anywhere, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not an overwhelming drive. But on the flip side, I do see how it can be for other people. Like, having walked a mile in that situation, I'm like, oh yeah, I get why you would never say this to a depressed person. Or so I'm better at that part of it, and like trying to communicate that to people I know. It's like, well, get over it is the worst thing you can say.
Oh, the worst. Absolutely the worst. Absolutely the worst. And I don't know if you've heard about Jamie Raskin's book that just recently came out. Do you know who Jamie Raskin is?
Mm-mm.
So he is a member of Congress, and he's incredible. He very liberal. His son committed suicide
Oh.
in December of 2020. And he was at the Capitol on January 6th when the insurrection happened, and his son had just killed himself. And he was in a depression, and he was the last person who saw his son before he did it. And his son just sounds like he was this incredible person, but he clearly, suffered.
Yeah.
Didn't matter. And then the insurrection happened, and he talked about like how it took everything in him to do that vote at 2 a.m, and how he really just had, and he said he still couldn't understand why his son did it. He couldn't relate because Jamie himself has gone through cancer and had his own adversity that he's had to work through, but he's like, I never didn't want to live. So
Right.
it was really, but then he said he finally kind of understood. He had to get an MRI, I believe he said. And he, when you're in it, you're in this enclosed, and he said all of a sudden he felt like, I can't get out. I'm trapped in here. And that was his own experience of going, this is how my son must have felt.
Mm-hmm.
Like he was enclosed, encapsulated, and there was nothing that could help him get
Right.
out of what he did. And I just think that increasingly more and more people are going to talk about the fact that they have these moments, because I don't believe for a second, especially when you think about the addiction rates in the United States, right? People tend to go to booze, whether that's their crutch or a drug or shopping or whatever it may be, because they don't want to deal with whatever's really happening.
Right.
And I think that there's a direct correlation to that and having suicidal thoughts. If you don't feel like you have control over whatever it is your addiction is, and that addiction is covering up whatever insecurities or traumas, little t's, big t's, whatever those may be, that I have a hard time believing that a lot of people have not had those thoughts or feelings or been at that point, and then because of friends or families or resources were able to get themselves out.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. We agree. I think that it's so deep and layered and overwhelming for both sides.
Of course, because when you love someone who is battling depression, it's a helpless feeling.
Yeah.
I've been friends with you for 20 years. I know you go through it, but when you're in it, you can't reach out to people. It's impossible. And I'm saying you as you, but also collectively for others, that it's really challenging to ask for help. It's shown as a sign of weakness in the society that we live in. Also, you know what the person's going to say. They're going, because all you want to do is try to make them feel better.
Right.
And help them. You're hoping that you're helping to get them to see the light and see the incredible human being they are that you see, and it backfires. And that's the scary part, is sometimes it can backfire.
Yeah. But you know what? I mean, I'm going to say this sentence, but it's not going to come out right. It's not your fault. You're doing the right thing.
Mm-hmm. Of course.
I mean, that's all you can do, right? And sometimes you're right, sometimes there's nothing you can say. And is it fair to put your friend in that position? I don't know that it is.
I think, no, I don't agree. I think that, let's say it's me, it's not you. Say I'm in a depression and I called you, Sherry, and
yes,
I was like, look, I know you cannot say anything to help me right now, but I just need to talk.
I'm in.
Right. And it would be the same. It's knowing that sometimes I feel like you just need to be heard, or you just need to talk, or you just need to let it out. And that's probably the best way to do it versus picking up a bottle or doing a line of cocaine.
But and I'm sure, because you probably, you're right. I feel all of us have been depressed at some point. I don't think that that's depression. I feel that that's just being depressed. And to me, there's a difference. But from my point of view, I would say, oh my God, they're going to get tired of hearing from me, or they're going to get tired of this crazy thought process that I'm dealing with. And it's just easier for me to not tell them and not deal with it. So I think there's a moment where, because I did go through it, I'm like, I noticed these signs from people. It was funny. One of the reasons why I was originally not in the mood to do this today was I did not want to talk about myself today. Just didn't. I am my least favorite topic. I'd much rather talk about you than myself. And I knew this was one of the one of the topics I was going to pick, because it has been on my mind so much recently. Not that I'm depressed, but that I'm actually at a point in my life where I want to live.
It's important.
And it's so ironic because we're in a pandemic and everybody else is battling horrendous mental instability, right? And I get
it's collective. We're all in it. I think that's what's interesting, but it's how people deal with it. Clearly, like what we saw on January 6th, those are people are just mentally ill, and I will say that all day long. They're they're in a cult. And
no, I just think they're crazy bad people, but
they are but you know what, there's nothing to say that they're not depressed or looking right. They're looking for that person or that it's going to make their life better. If you're the coal miner in West Virginia and you hear this person who's like, I'm going to bring your job back and I'm going to bring it and make it better, like the way your grandparents live, they're
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's what I want.
Let's do it.
To hope, regardless of the fact the person is a fucking lunatic who
Yeah.
doesn't give a shit about you, who wouldn't piss on you if you were on fire.
Oh, actually, I feel he'd be the one that would set you on fire, to be perfectly honest. No, he wouldn't give it a second thought
No.
at all. He'd just like, here's the match. Yeah, but that's, yeah. Let's not go there because I gotta leave. I gotta go see firemen.
I know you got to go, but I want to say that I'm so thankful for Delilah, and I'm thankful
Did you
for
see her?
you.
She did make an appearance. Did you see that?
She made an appearance, and
Yeah,
I'm really like, I just have so much, I don't know what the word is. I'm struggling this. I think I need more coffee. I so appreciate the fact that you brought this up as a topic, because I think it's super important. I think we should explore it more. I think that mental, I don't even want to call it illness, because it's not. I don't think it's a mental illness. I think it's, we're all collectively dealing with a lot of uncertainty and a lot of fear. I mean, even taking the pandemic out of the picture, there are people talking about a civil war and our democracy.
Yeah,
and I mean,
exactly.
It's a lot. And then we have our own personal things. And I know we need to wrap up, but I have to share this one last story.